How's everybody doing today? This is the DVD update. 5 pickups today. Now first up is the 20th anniversary special edition of Tourist Trap. From 1979, this is a fantastic film. I saw this as a kid and it totally creeped me out. I was scarred for life after this movie. Honestly, it was totally creepy. And it took me a while to figure out what this movie was. I kept trying to figure out what it was, and nobody really knew when I was explaining it to them. And I finally found it, and I'm so glad that I found it because it's amazing. Chuck Connors was great as Mr. Slausen. I highly recommend this movie if you haven't seen it. This is one of my favorite slasher movies ever. Basically, it's about a group of kids that are stranded, and it starts out with one of the cars breaks down. One of the kids goes to try to find help, and then he never comes back, so the rest of them go to find him. They go to this roadside museum. They meet the owner of the museum, and there's all kinds of crazy creepiness going on with mannequins and things of that nature. It's kind of a supernatural slasher, if you will, and very well done. And it's got a director commentary from David Schmoeller as well. So this is produced by Cult Video right there. New digital transfer from the original negative. There's also over 40 Full Moon trailers on here. Cult Video is a subsidiary of Full Moon Productions. A truly bizarre movie, definitely very creepy and atmospheric. Love this movie. An all-time favorite, honestly. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. Next up is the special edition of The Devil's Backbone. Fantastic Spanish ghost story, directed by Guillermo del Toro. Highly recommend this one as well. It came out in 2001. It's basically a story about the end of the Spanish Civil War and this school that's hidden off, kind of an orphanage run by an elderly man and an elderly woman, and also there's two other people that run it as well. All these kids are there, and the lead character goes there after his father, who was in the military, was fatally wounded, so they drop him off there, and he finds out about a ghost of a kid who was basically murdered there at the school, and it goes from there, and you learn who killed the kid and why and what that person plans to do, and it's really a moving story. It's beautifully shot. Everything about this movie is the acting from the kids, very well done, and I definitely recommend this. This was a great film. Guillermo del Toro is tremendous. He's done so many great things. He's created a great name for himself. I loved Mimic and Pan's Labyrinth as well. I definitely love the ending of this movie. It brought everything together, and it's just a beautifully shot movie. Well done. Definitely check it out. Next up is Callback. Now, I haven't heard anything about this movie. It was really cheap, so I just picked it up. It's basically about a guy who's kind of done like a Hostel type movie, and he's doing a casting call, and he sees this girl that he, is attracted to. He basically tosses all these other girls out. They're trying to do these screams, and he doesn't like any of them, and he's basically very rude and pretentious, and he's a jerk essentially. So he sees this one girl though, and he decides to have her come back to his place, if you will, you know what I mean. And however, she has a surprise in store for him. She has her girlfriend come over, and the girlfriend hits him over the head, and they tie him up, and they basically torture him. And then at the end of the movie, you find out why that was done, and you find, you were feeling sorry for him throughout the movie, and you just thought these girls were kind of sadistic and crazy. But then you find out he basically deserves it, and this is a crazy kind of movie. And one thing I didn't, if anybody's ever seen this movie, please leave me a comment down below. I have a question about this. And the beginning scene where she's screaming, her top falls down, and there's a black bar barring out her nipple, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. It seems out of place. But because later on in the movie you do see nudity in the film, not from her though. So maybe she had a clause in her contract that she couldn't do that, show nudity. But if that was the case, why even have that scene? Because they show nudity later on, not from her, but somebody differently. And right there. Lights, Camera, Torture was the tagline. The cover in the back leads you to believe that it's more crazy than it actually is. It's really not that violent, and they could have done more with it, I think. It had potential to be better than it is. It was decent. I mean, I'd say maybe rent it, but if you can find it cheap, I guess add it to your collection. But it's nothing special. It's about average. Average at best. Next up is Walden with Misha Barton. She plays the lead. Basically, there was an old apartment building developed by this eccentric architect, and basically he disappeared, and all these people were murdered and put into the walls. And they're several years later, and now Misha Barton and her family, they own a construction company, and they're going to tear it down. But she goes there and lives there for a while to take all the measurements and everything, make sure everything's ready, and she gets kind of drawn into this whole mystery, and by the end of it, it she's really deep into it, to say the least. And you find out all about what happened and what really happened. And there's still some people, there's like a few people living in the building as well, and they have to be out by that time because the building's going to be blown up. Apparently this was based on a book and a graphic novel. I didn't really care for this movie too much. I understood what it was trying to do, but I didn't really enjoy it, honestly. It was lackluster, and I really think Mischa Barton is a horrible actress. I didn't really like the little kid in this as well. I didn't care for either one of them, so that was basically the whole film. Seriously, Mischa Barton is a horrendous actress. Her screams were laughable. And to the casting directors, Shauna Toshett and Carmen Kotek, what were you thinking? You sandbagged your movie with that call. And next up is The Changeling from 1980 with George C. Scott playing the lead. The first scene in this movie reminded me of The Shining, but then it completely changes. From there, he's a writer and he loses his family essentially, and he's trying to find the secluded area, so he rents this crazy old house, and apparently, you know, it's haunted, and there's a whole ghost story mystery behind it, and there's a lot of crazy things that happen, and he finds out more about it, and it goes in depth. It's close to 2 hours long. A lot of people love this movie. I don't think I've ever heard a negative review about this movie, but I will say, for me personally, I thought it was just about average. I wasn't impressed by it at all, especially because some things just didn't flow together well. The pacing wasn't great. George C. Scott, I think he kind of underacted some of the scenes. I was thinking to myself when some of the things were happening, I would have been told, if it were me there, I would have been freaking the hell out. But he was just kind of very calm and collected, and I was like, that's not a natural reaction from the things that are happening. And then there was the female lead in here. There was a scene where she just completely flipped out, which was very different from the rest of her scenes that she was in. So that seemed out of place. But all in all, it was an alright movie. I was expecting a little bit more, especially from all the, from everything that I've heard from it as well. Now this movie is very popular, but I don't go on popular opinion. I go based on what I enjoy and what I like. And if you guys like it, more power to you. Now I saw this movie a long time ago, and I just recently rewatched it. And if you are a fan of this movie, Amazon has this for really cheap right now, brand new, directly through Amazon for $4.49. So if you've seen this movie and you do enjoy it, definitely pick it up. It's a great deal. Can't pass that up. And I'm a huge fan of Canadian films, but for me personally, I just thought this was about average. It didn't do it for me. I don't need a lot of visual stimulation or a lot of action, but for me, I didn't find the characters intriguing, and the majority of this film was spent investigating the family and the child and everything of that nature. And really, there wasn't too much tension or creepiness for me. There was the one scene with the wheelchair, and then you see the flashback. That was really about it. I needed a little bit more suspense and build up and some kind of thing to get me involved, something. If you're into this movie, if you like this movie, kudos to you. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. No judgment calls, but it just wasn't for me. It was about average. Let me know what you think of it. I do think there's way better films of this nature out there, more scary house kind of movies. That was the best part of it for me, was the house. It had good atmosphere, mostly because of that house. And the ending, I will say I liked the ending. The ending was good. That raised it up a little bit for me. But again, Amazon, $4.49. If you like this movie, can't beat that price. I thought it was just alright. I didn't think it was fantastic, or I wouldn't highly recommend this movie. The suspense was okay, but there's nothing palpable about it. I wasn't at all ever, felt like there was any kind of real scare or great tension to it, but I know a lot of people do like it, so maybe it'll be up your alley. I thought it was just okay, though. So those are my 5 pickups right here. Let me know what you think of these movies if you've seen them. I would give this probably about a 5.5, possibly a 6. 5.5, possibly 6. Because besides his reactions, George C. Scott played a good role. Besides his reactions to the things that he saw, everything else was well done, and it was very atmospheric. I will give it that as well. But my biggest issues again were his underreaction and the female lead's overreaction in that one scene. And I didn't really feel like there was that much thrill or tension built up. I don't know, just didn't float my boat. Now this one I would probably give about a 3.5 stars out of 10. I think the house was good. The story, reading about it, and I was thinking, this could be a really creepy kind of movie, but it failed. Mischa Barton, horrible, never cast her in anything, horrendous actress. That was the worst having her as your lead ruined your movie. Any chance of a good movie, ruined. Done. Next up is Callback. I would give this a 5. It was decent, but it could have been a lot better. And Devil's Backbone, freaking love this movie. 9 out of 10 stars. Fantastic movie. Guillermo del Toro, mwah, wonderful. Love it. One of the best ghost stories ever. In my opinion, I'm sorry, all you Changeling fans, way better than Changeling. Completely different in some aspects, but some similarities as far as a child ghost kind of thing going on. Next up, Tourist Trap. Love this movie. 9.5 out of 10 for me. Absolutely love this. One of my favorite slashers. I remember this as a kid. It still creeps me out. I rewatched it a couple times recently. Totally creeped me out. Still to this day. Love it. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. Do it. Go get it. Blind buy it. You will thank me later. Both of these. So again, if you guys have seen any of these movies, let me know what you think down below, and hope everybody's doing well. Take care.